Have you ever actually stopped to think about what's going on inside your brain when you're just endlessly scrolling through your feed? Because right now, our very own physiological habits, these totally ruthless digital algorithms, and the ancient art of performance are literally locked in this massive invisible battle. And the ultimate prize? Well, it's your focus. So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how our shrinking ability to pay attention is forcing creators, platforms, and performers to just completely rewrite the rules of engagement.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. First, we'll cover the attention span crisis, then decoding the 2026 algorithm, third, the anatomy of humor, and finally, pro on-camera acting tips.
All right, let's dive right into section one, the attention span crisis. I want to ask you a pretty direct question right out of the gate here. Is short form content actually breaking our brains? Well, to find the real answer, we've got to look at the data. There's this fascinating 2024 academic study that was published in the Indian Journal of Mental Health, and it set out to find exactly what's happening to our focus. Researchers surveyed a group of undergraduate students in the Murshidabad and Pashimedinapur districts of West Bengal, India. Basically, they wanted to measure the direct relationship between consuming short reel-style videos and two crucial cognitive factors, our attention span and our attention diversion, which is just a fancy way of saying our tendency to get totally distracted. Now, the findings here tell a really distinct story. The researchers mathematically proved a significant negative correlation between social media reel consumption and attention span. Basically, the more you scroll, the shorter your attention span gets. It's like a seesaw, but it doesn't even stop there. The data also showed a positive correlation with attention diversion. The students who consumed a ton of reels were highly susceptible to cognitive distraction. Think about checking a notification the literal second it pops up while you're trying to study or sit in class. This is the intensely fragmented reality we're all living in. Which brings us to section two, decoding the 2026 algorithm. So this shrinking attention span we were just talking about, it directly dictates how platform algorithms treat creators today. The algorithms literally adapt to our brain chemistry. I know this is probably exactly why a lot of you clicked on this explainer in the first place. If you're trying to reach an audience in 2026, you absolutely have to understand how YouTube is adjusting to our fractured focus. The biggest game changer, YouTube's 2026 algorithm now ranks shorts and long-form content in completely separate silos. They're essentially two entirely different recommendation systems working in parallel. And guys, this is massive news. It means one format's performance doesn't penalize the other anymore. You can use hyperfast shorts to grab that scattered attention and build awareness without constantly worrying that a low view duration on a short is going to completely tank the analytics of your 20-minute deep dive documentary. So what's the magic number? The crucial metric is 60%. According to the latest data from CoalSquare, holding 60% or more of your audience to the very end of a video will absolutely crush a viral, hollow video that only holds, say, 20% of its viewers. Why? Well, because the algorithm has evolved. It's no longer just about raw watch time. It now heavily weighs satisfaction signals. Things like comments, shares, and post-watch surveys. Those mean everything now. A video that people actually finish and actively engage with is the holy grail for the 2026 algorithm, simply because it proves you actually managed to hold a human being's fragmented attention, and that is no easy feat. Let's move on to section 3, the anatomy of humor. All right, so moving into the first part of our solution, let's look at how to actually capture that algorithmically demanded retention. I mean, how do you keep someone from just swiping away? You use the science of comedy. There's this brilliantly simple concept from the Swedish Wikipedia page for humor. It's called the benign violation theory, or harmless overträdelseteorin. Now, this theory explains that humor requires two things to happen at the exact same time. First, you need a violation, a breaking of a norm, an expectation, or a social rule. But second, it requires psychological distance and an alternative interpretation to make that transgression feel innocent and safe. When our brains realize that a rule was broken, but hey, we aren't in any actual danger, that psychological relief instantly results in a laugh. It's a sudden, safe surprise. And surprise, it turns out, is the ultimate antidote to a shrinking attention span. Now, let's contrast that dense academic mental health data we looked at earlier with a highly artistic, qualitative framework. The legendary comedian Rowan Atkinson actually noted that visual comedy generally relies on an object doing one of three things: being in an unusual place, behaving in an unusual way, or just straight up being the wrong size. It's all about setting up a 100% predictable scenario and then, bam, introducing a 100% unexpected twist. This creates what you could call a cognitive crash in the viewer's mind. They literally have to pause their scrolling and correct their worldview to understand the visual contrast. And that pause, that is exactly what locks in their attention. And we can see the psychology of humor playing out in real time if we just look at the booming stand-up comedy industry in India right now. In 2026, the biggest trend isn't these heavily rehearsed, scripted monologues. It's crowd work. Comedians talking directly to the audience, improvising, just reacting in the moment. Now, this has exploded globally for sure, but especially in India, because it feels incredibly natural and entirely unscripted. When an audience knows a joke is happening right off the cuff, that element of surprise is totally maxed out. That raw, live interaction perfectly holds the modern fragmented attention span because, let's be honest, you quite literally cannot predict what's going to happen next.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 4, Pro On-Camera Acting Tips.
For our final solution, we're shifting gears from the comedy stage over to the film set. Let's explore how intense physicality on camera can actually physically anchor a viewer's wandering attention. Now, I want to break the fourth wall for just a second here and challenge you to hold eye contact with the screen right now. Seriously, don't look away. According to legendary actor Michael Caine, blinking can subtly weaken your presence and make a character look really nervous. But when you stare intensely without blinking, you build this incredible amount of raw emotional tension. Just think about it. If someone on a screen is blinking excessively, it sends a subconscious signal to our already distracted brains that they aren't confident, right? So we naturally swipe away. But an unblinking locked-in eyeline, it demands your focus. It forces you to stay present in the exact moment. Now, aside from the eyeline, there are also some highly technical filmmaking mechanics that prevent overacting and create a really subtle performance that locks in that algorithmic retention. First up is what industry pros call sticking the line. Think of it kind of like a gymnast landing a flip. When you deliver a crucial piece of dialogue on camera, you freeze. Any extra movement or fidgeting looks totally exaggerated on camera, and it just pulls the audience right out of the story. Second is hitting the mark. If you have to walk and talk, you actually practice walking the scene backward first. This makes sure you land on the exact right spot for camera focus and lighting perfectly every single time. These mechanical disciplines create a magnetic, grounded presence that a distracted viewer simply cannot ignore. Which really brings us to the ultimate question we all have to ask ourselves today. In an algorithm-driven world, are you capturing the audience's attention, or is the platform capturing yours? We've seen exactly how our attention spans are physiologically shrinking. We've seen how platforms like YouTube now demand 60% retention and deep satisfaction signals just to reward you. But we've also seen the solutions, right? The psychological surprise of the benign violation theory, the unscripted magic of crowd work, and the intense physical anchoring of professional acting techniques. So you have the tools to cut through the noise. The only question is, how will you use them?